Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. Very excited to have Mr. Paul Little on the call with us today, one of the visionaries of the higher education sector in Scotland, the UK, and frankly, worldwide. We're delighted to have him on the talk today to share his perspectives and his visions. My name is Rick Mincham. I'm Head of Development for the Asia Scotland Institute. Also joining us for this discussion is our Chairman, Roddy Gow. So first I will just I'll give a brief introduction to Paul Little himself. He is the Principal and CEO of the Glasgow City College, City College of Glasgow, excuse me. Paul oversees the overall strategic planning of the college, ensuring the college's portfolio remains relevant and consistent in terms of quality. He founded the City of Glasgow College at the height of the last financial crisis by successfully and swiftly merging four of Scotland's specialist further and higher education tertiary institutes, those being responsible for naval education, civil engineering and printing, catering and food technology, and commerce and retail. City of Glasgow College subsequently became Scotland's largest college and the fourth largest, as well as the top ranked in the UK. City of Glasgow College is now a super college with capacity for some 40,000 students, with students drawn from some 150 different nationalities. The college contributes an impressive £6 billion to Scotland's economy, and the driving purpose is to let learning flourish. Preceding the merger, Paul Little was Principal and Chief Executive of Central College Glasgow from 2007. Prior to this, he was Acting Director and Chief Executive of the Southern Regional College in Northern Ireland, Principal and Chief Executive of the Queen's Award-winning Armagh College of Further and Higher Education, and Principal of Limavady College. He has 30 years experience in further education and is a Fellow of the Royal Society of Arts, a member of the Institute of Public Relations, and a member of the Nautical Institute. Also, as Ambassador for World Skills UK for Scotland, he has overseen the creation of a World Skills Academy and the City of Glasgow College's current #1 ranking in the World Skills UK League. He is a retired HM Coast Guard officer and a Fellow at the Nautical Institute. So to get the discussion started, I'd like to pass this over to our chairman, the Asia Scotland Institute's chairman, Mr. Roddy Gow.
Rick, thank you. And Paul, very good to see you. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this in your office at the City of Glasgow College. I got it right and will do consistently. The reason we are so interested in hearing from you is that higher education is one of the great challenges and opportunities for Scotland as we connect with the global markets. And you have done a quite remarkable thing, as we are going to discover, in creating the City of Glasgow College. And with your permission, what I'd like to do is ask Andrew Brotherson to show the film that gives, in a 5-minute clip, the background with you speaking, and then I'll come back and talk to you again, if that's okay.
That's wonderful, thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
This is what colleges of the future look like. Designed for learning, for real careers and real jobs that we might not yet have thought possible. They will all start here. Say hello to City of Glasgow College.
Hello.
Hello. Hola.
Yassas.
Hello.
مرحبا بكم.
Hi, Shana.
Hiya.
Well, City of Glasgow College is a magical place. We have a team of some 1,300 staff and it's built for 40,000 students. And they work each and every day for the benefit of those students.
I've always enjoyed teaching. I always enjoy passing knowledge on. But to do it in this environment, probably the best in Europe, I feel exceptionally lucky.
The staff here are amazing. You've got such a huge wealth of knowledge, so diverse. I couldn't honestly think of a better place to come and study.
We are the #1 college in Glasgow. We're the #1 college in terms of the standards for our technical and professional education in the United Kingdom. We are a college that's been recognised by the European Foundation for Quality Management as a 6-star organisation. We are a college that attracts students from right around the world. We have some 50 international partners that send us students or work with us for the benefits of our students. We've got very much a global footprint and global reputation.
City of Glasgow College has two stunning city centre campus sites, 10 minutes apart on both sides of the River Clyde, linked together by award-winning design and state-of-the-art facilities. Riverside campus is earning a global reputation as a high-tech launching pad for careers at sea, with a 360-degree simulator and a full-sized working ship's engine. It is what some might call the Harvard of maritime education.
We wanted to ensure that we had a campus that was the most technologically advanced, the most future-proofed, and indeed the most modern of all the 230 maritime campuses all around the world. We provide about a third of all the ship's captains and chief engineers for the British merchant fleet. So we realise that we have a very important role to ensure that those ship's captains and engineers and all the other officers are trained to the highest possible standard.
Riverside campus opened its doors to students in 2015, and just a year later, the City campus, with its wealth of industry-facing facilities, completes this £228 million super campus.
First time I walked in the college, I just thought, wow.
I thought this is awesome.
It's amazing. As you can see, this fabulous gym, it's a great environment to be in. Everybody's brought together. You know, there's so many different areas to interact with each other. The library's huge as well. You know, there's so much technology. We've got all these awesome interactive boards, so it's a much better learning environment.
I don't think any of us actually expected it to be as good as it really is. It's incredible. We're still sort of pinching ourselves coming in the morning that this is where we are now teaching classes.
Other students' associations are absolutely blown away by the place. Some of them have even came for visits. They're very envious of what we have here, and rightly so. It's fantastic.
This next generation college combines practical theory with classroom training that industry demands, and a wide range of courses to match.
The facilities we've got, I'd have to say, would rival even the best restaurants in Scotland. And by looking at the kitchen, we've got the best quality of equipment, not because it's new, but the top of the range equipment has been purchased for the purpose for training. Likewise out front, the systems we're working with are also the best we could possibly go for.
It's setting you up for what you're actually going to do. Like most courses, you don't really get like an insight to practicing, whereas here we've got the cabin, so we can practice everything before we go into it.
I'd like to think we've always produced very industry-ready students, but now the facilities are actually supporting us in the production of these students, so it's just adding to the quality of the learning experience for everybody, both the students and the staff.
We have invested in workshops and specialist facilities that allow real-world learning, that simulate the environments, be they the bridge of a supertanker, the inside of an aircraft, or indeed an art and design studio. We've actually tried to replicate that so that we have our students graduate with industry-standard skills.
This is a global player with outstanding facilities. City of Glasgow College is a powerful offering for any student looking for a future career.
Thank you very much, Paul. That's a wonderful film, and it gives us a really good background to what we're going to chat about today. So let's start with what inspired you to do the things that you started to do, build what you have, and where do you see it going in the future?
Well, first of all, Glasgow is a world-class city, and what I wanted to do with my team here was to create a world-class college. So we really, as Rick had said, had a number of best-in-class institutions, very specialist institutions in the very heart of Glasgow city centre. Those institutions have really helped keep Glasgow as one of the major world cities, but it was important that we prepared for the next stage. So we had a blue ocean vision, not a blue sky vision, where we're trying to move to uncontested space, to redefine, to retransform, if you like, a very important area of Scottish tertiary education. It's higher technical and professional skills, or as I like to call in these days of digital, higher technological and professional skills. And we had a very singular purpose for that, to let learning flourish for the many and not for the few. So you can clearly see from that world-class campus there that it is very much state-of-the-art. It's probably one of the most modern in the entire world. And we invested, 2015, £228 million to create that campus. From we had some 13 colleges across the City of Glasgow sites, and we came down to 2, which was quite unusual in those days. We're delighted in these more pandemic days to only have responsibility for 2 sites rather than the original number of sites than we had. But I guess my former mentor in Harvard, Clay Christian, would have said we're very much a disruptive innovator. And we're, if you like, taking enlightenment in Scotland to that next stage. And I guess that next generation college that you can see from its ambience shows that it's future-proof for the next 50 years. And as an institution, we don't think in terms of 3 to 5 years. We work in 50-year time horizons, 25-year time horizons, and 10-year time horizons. And you can tell from the flavor of that college that it's very, very cosmopolitan. It's probably the most cosmopolitan college in the United Kingdom, with 151 different nationalities. And the size is probably hard to get your head around. If you're a Euro football fan, it's probably the size of 10 football pitches. I guess the other thing to realize, about that institution is that, it provides education from entry level right up to master's level, some 20-degree specialisms, 400 higher diplomas, and a whole range of courses in professional education and technological education. So it's about how do we kind of take very successful specialist institutions, merge them together to create a super college. There was no super college anywhere in the world when that was created. Actually, it's now 11 years ago, and that video was post-pandemic. So it's really pleasing and heartening to see the volume of students. In any one day, you could have between, over 12,000 students all together at one point. And, the size of that institution is probably twice the size of any university that you would know. So it's quite massive in its scale, and then we'll probably get on to quite massive in its global reach. So very much a transformative, blue ocean, redefining next generation college.
Paul, thank you. And we all know that a critical component of Scotland's economy, and indeed that of the UK, is the ability to attract students from other parts of the world, Africa, the United States, and in the case of the Asia Scotland Institute, of which I should have said you're an important member of our International Advisory Council, from Asia. And I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about how you do that. There's the exporting of the unique model, and I know you have a presence in other parts of the world that you've talked about or will talk about, and there's the importing of students to study at the City of Glasgow College.
Well, we are very much a college of partnership, and Scotland is very much an outward-looking nation. I think because we are so successful, Rick mentioned we're consistently top ranking as the #1 college in the United Kingdom. In terms of Europe, for example, we are recognized as a prize-winning organization for sustaining outstanding results, which for an academic institution is obviously very, very important. But our students are trained to the highest levels. So we teach students to excellence levels, not to competence levels. So as a result of that, we engage in world competitions and European competitions, and of course, UK competitions. So we've built up a reputation of excellence. For example, just in the last 5 years alone, 6 years alone, our students in UK levels have got 63 gold, silver, bronze medals. We then compete at the biannual Skills Olympics that are held anywhere from Sao Paulo right through to Abu Dhabi, and it'll be Beijing next year. And those students come back either rated 3rd or 4th in the world. You saw one of our chefs, our Gary McLean, who's the national chef for Scotland. He regularly enters competitions where our students are presently ranking as the 3rd ranking world chef, student chef in the world. In addition to that, we are rated for our innovation. Just last week, out of all the 45 universities and colleges in Scotland, we were ranked as the #1 for research project of the year, and also #1 for partnerships for our work in financial services. So that gives us a huge pedigree to go out to the international market. Outward looking, trying to work presently now across all 5 continents. We work with 29 different countries, And since that video was shown, we have dramatically increased our footprint. We now work with 130 international partnerships. And even since lockdown, that actually has grown our popularity. We've doubled the number of applications internationally. Usually about 4,000 students come to the college full-time and part-time during a year. That number of application rate has actually doubled in the past year alone. So we work, as you know, because we're a very cosmopolitan, because we've got a unique offer here. We work with a whole range of partner institutions around the world. I said, you know, that's probably in the region now of about 130 across those different continents. And we sometimes deliver in that continent, and then sometimes we bring those students to our halls of residence and to train in Scotland itself.
Paul, thank you. It's a very remarkable story, and we want to learn more about it. So I'm going to hand over to Rick Minsham now to ask you some questions. Thank you.
Wonderful, very many thanks. Fascinating to hear about the journey. We've heard a little about your inspiration and the importance of tertiary education in Scotland. Perhaps start with a slightly more general question. I know you pride yourself on your role as an economic and civic anchor. Perhaps you could explain in a bit more detail how the City of Glasgow College plays a role in Glasgow, Scotland, and the wider world at large, and how you support it as an economic and civic anchor. Be keen to hear.
Well, that's actually a term that we coined, Rick, to try and super reach and super impact. So let's just take the last few years alone. Let's just say, you know, since I've known Roddy there. So over the last decade, the City of Glasgow College, located at the very geographic heart of Glasgow, next to our city government, has got the facilities and has got the talent pipeline to make a transformational impact on our economy and our community. So for example, we boosted the Scottish Glasgow economy by £6 billion over that period. Over that period, 100,000 graduates left us with a lifetime premium, each of £56,000 extra by studying with us on an annual basis. In addition to that, you know, we transformed whole communities. We played a very important civic role during the pandemic in supporting the health and care sectors, but also we were advising Scottish Government, and in fact, we advised SAGE Committee in the United Kingdom in terms of aspects of tertiary education and working with the disadvantaged. So very much an anchor organisation with every year 8,000 graduates leave us with real work skills that can immediately go into some 2,000 companies and make an immediate impact, a civic impact and an economic impact. And obviously that just continues with the pandemic because of upskilling and reskilling. So we're now expecting probably in the next few months to train well over 100, maybe 250,000 people in using some 20 digital programs that are prepared to help, for example, distressed economic sectors, be they retail, hospitality, tourism, or indeed aviation. We've already been helping them, but we think those numbers will just multiply over that time. So with an institution that's very much involved in technical education, professional education, lifetime learning, widening access to all of that, we have got the portfolio of courses to help businesses, large, small, SMEs. We work, for example, with the top 10 shipping companies, right through to some of the owner-occupied businesses around Glasgow. We'd be able to help all of those institutions to be part of that kind of economic future as a powerhouse for skills, you know, in Scotland, indeed across the UK. You know, we are recognized as having the academic faculty, the vocational faculty, experts, skills coaches, to help a whole range of maybe 30 different industry sectors.
Fascinating. I mean, very interesting. You mentioned that it was the merger to become a super college that has supported with this position that you hold in Glasgow and across Scotland. It's a very challenging thing that you brought together now just a little over 10 years ago, that you say, It would be interesting to hear the challenges you faced in coordinating all of these different campuses and these different offerings. And just go into a bit more detail about what those challenges were, and then of course to highlight a bit further what the advantages are of being a single entity when approaching these topics.
Well, we actually published a book on it. It's in the British Library. But if I could summarize that in essence, we began our epic journey at the start of a global financial crisis. We continued that journey of change during a period of austerity, during a period of public sector reform, during two constitutional referenda. And obviously it continues now with a global health crisis and a world pandemic that we're following. So in that time, we brought very specialist institutions together. So there's a cultural integration there. We had this compelling vision for the future. But in addition to that, we protected the existing brands and migrated that to a single brand. And I guess the way I would summarize all of that is, the challenges were achieved using the City Way. And the City Way is 3 words, and they're very easy to remember. First and foremost, to be inspirational. Secondly, to keep excellence at the heart of every single thing that we do, including that change. And thirdly, to remain innovative for the future and with a 50-year time horizon. So it's very much a team city effort. Some 2,000 staff work extremely well together with a fantastic board of management, with many stakeholders in Glasgow, the United Kingdom, and indeed internationally, to ensure that we could remain relevant to the economic sectors we support, but at the same time create a new blue ocean future to prepare for a transformational change. And here we are 10 years on, in the heart of all that transformational change, not just surviving, but we're an institution which is thriving in this new change, this new turbulent world.
That's really excellent. Many thanks for the details. I think it would be interesting again to hear you to maybe focus on the Glasgow City College's core purpose. You mentioned previously that you pride yourself on the long-term outlook of the institution. So perhaps you could give us a quick rundown.
Well, the core purpose is also 3 words, and they resonate with the city's vision, because we're very much the City of Glasgow's College, hence the title of our institution. And, Glasgow flourishes. So the City of Glasgow has got let learning flourish as its main singular purpose. And that doesn't simply mean let the work of the college be good or indeed be excellent. Let's go beyond excellence. Let's go to flourishing in whatever challenges, whatever economic context, whatever is the ability of the individual learner. So we've got some 40,000 learners. And what we're trying to achieve here is a personalized education, a personalized skills training for every individual in that 40,000. The average age of a student at the college is 25. The youngest links to us through the senior phase of schools in 13. And we've got a young 81-year-old lifetime learner with us at the minute. So across, if you like, over 1,200 programs, we have a range of curricula that would be able to help the individual personalized learner, be they the learner who's now in a digital future, or be the learner who requires the professional skills that we offer across our 4 faculties. And we do that in a way where we support that learner in their journey. We talk about a student experience that is before they come to us, while they're with us, and indeed when they leave us, as part of our very extensive alumni network. And we have a lifetime relationship with all our learners.
Excellent. So following on from that, you mentioned that you have 4 key faculties. I also understand the City of Glasgow College is one of the largest educational establishments in the UK. It'd be interesting to hear you describe a little how that scale breaks down across these key faculties that you have, and maybe highlight some of the more interesting offerings you have at the moment.
Well, I guess the key thing is the 4 faculties, for example, reflect in some ways the legacy institutions. So we've got a creative industries faculty, we've got a faculty of nautical studies and STEM, we've got a faculty of hospitality and leisure, and we've got a Faculty of Education and Humanities. So they very much reflect our unique contribution to tertiary education in Scotland. And they're very much faculties that actually have got, they're the size almost of many universities, each of those in their own right. They're kind of led by a very experienced dean, and each of those maybe has maybe 1,500, 200 or 300 staff, depending on the size of that faculty. Some of those faculties are really world famous. So for example, you take the Nautical and STEM faculty, we'll be inundated during COP26 with the international shipping community, the IMO, as part of our maritime hub that will come to our dedicated maritime campus. And in that short video, I talked about that we train a third of the Merchant Navy officers for the United Kingdom. We actually train about half now of the Merchant Navy officers in the United Kingdom. And even during the pandemic, we had 247 of these cadets at sea, making sure that you and I were fed and got the supplies that we needed, so forth. So these faculties are training students to the highest levels, but in skill areas that are needed for the economy, in skill areas and in professional education areas that are needed to, if you like, provide pathways for students who come from us from a diverse range of backgrounds. We have students who are, from very entitled backgrounds, and we have students who are from very disadvantaged backgrounds. Perhaps some 3 out of every 5 of our students come from some of the most disadvantaged backgrounds in the United Kingdom. But talent is blind, and what we really want to do is to make sure, however you start your journey, the City of Glasgow College will take you from that humble beginning and take you to a world-class standard, and a standard that you will know that you're at because you'll get internationally recognized qualifications, but you'll also have competed in international competitions. So you'll know who your peers are. We're probably, some of us in this call are watching, the Euros or indeed the international football matches, or, our cousins in America have got, the sporting scene over there. So as a result of that, we know that our students gain extra confidence by competing against their peers all around the world. They actually study in classrooms, as I mentioned before, that are very, very cosmopolitan. So we're preparing students for the world. We're preparing students who start in Glasgow, can make a contribution to our Glasgow economy, our Scottish economy, but actually have got passports that will take them to anywhere in the world with the qualifications and still maintain that link with the college for life.
It's really inspirational to hear the changes that you're making at every level in Scottish society. As a super college, I understand that you're actively involved in both further and higher education. Perhaps for some of our audience, you could describe a little bit how you differ from a typical university, let's say, in terms of your offerings and the skills that you provide to your students.
Well, I guess when we first were established, we could have become a university. We could have chosen that particular academic route, but we felt Scotland has got a number of world-class universities, but what Scotland didn't have at that stage was a world-class super college. So we're very much a hybrid institution. For example, if we were on mainland Europe, we would be a technical university. If we were in Singapore, we would be an institute of technical excellence. If we were in America, we would be a cross between a very, very large community college or a 4-year public college. 70% of our students study full-time higher education. So in many ways, Scotland has got a world-class higher education reputation, but about a quarter of that higher education is delivered in professional institutes, in higher technical institutes, such as the City of Glasgow College. So for example, every year we have some 8,000 graduates that leave us. They don't leave us with academic degrees after 4 years. They may leave us with professional and technical, and as I call them, technological degrees or technological diplomas that they've either studied for 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, or indeed 1 year, depending how specialist is their level of study. So, in many ways, it is actually a complement to the academic education that you find in universities. The difference, I suppose, is that although we've got an extensive innovation portfolio, we look at innovation in the world of work, innovation in some of those economic sectors, we very much specialize in teaching. We very much specialize in that student experience, and less so than in research. We've got world-class universities in Scotland that focus much more in universities. We focus in skills development, we focus in degrees and diplomas, in technology and industrial degrees and industrial diplomas. So if you think of the German model, 20% of all of their students are in a parallel system to what we're doing. We're probably at the cutting edge in the UK in the higher technical and professional skills and mid skills. And what we're finding, we've had 20 different countries in the world have sent delegations over the last 5 years to find out about how can you prepare for the next generation of technologists? How can you prepare for the next generation of technicians? I think we have discovered that we have got a lot of graduates out there. Many of them are underemployed. We don't aim to do that. We aim to make sure that all our graduates end up relevant to the industry so that they are working at a cutting edge and making that impact, and that they're not, underemployed. In fact, that they're overemployed. And, very often, we have waiting lists for our courses and waiting lists with employers. We work with about 2,000 employers, and they sit on our advisory committees. So we keep the content of our courses extremely relevant to what industry needs. For example, you take our logistics and supply chain management. The standards that you need, for example, to deliver anywhere in the world, we will know. So, for example, we're very familiar with Amazon. We've used that during the lockdown. If you were in China, and some of our colleagues will join us from China, you'll be more familiar with Alibaba, which is the kind of Chinese equivalent of that. So we teach students who wish to work for Alibaba. We teach students who wish to work for e-commerce and supply chains in China. And we have a 98% employment rate for all those students that we teach. Some in the region of 170 a year. We used to send out staff for 9 weeks a year to teach in China. And in the last year, because of the pandemic, we have 3 blocks of 4 weeks a year where we're teaching those students in real time about how to work in supply chain and how to work in logistics. But to do so knowing that when they graduate from the City of Glasgow College, they will be snapped up by Alibaba and all of those major institutions around Hangzhou and help in e-commerce. So it gives you a bit of a flavor of the currency of our courses, but it gives you the flavor of how much we're sought after around the world.
Really excellent. It sounds like you're preparing Scotland's and the global next generation for a bright future. You like to talk about how important the long-term strategic outlook is for your organisation, City of Glasgow College. I wonder if you might go into some of the strategic initiatives that you're developing at the moment with that long-term outlook and this industrial capacity and support in mind.
Well, it's a good question, Rick. I think we are the tip of the spear for the skills-led recovery that Scotland's going to need to, if you like, recover for this pandemic. And so there'll be a huge amount of upskilling and reskilling that we'll be involved in. But mid-term, with that mid-future, where we hope to work with more international partners, very much an outward-looking institution. And we want to do that probably with a variety of consortia so that we all pull our collective international wisdom to help some of the challenges ahead. We're very excited, in particular, about COP26 that's coming to Glasgow. There's never been an event in the whole of the United Kingdom as big as COP26. I thought in 2014 that the Commonwealth Games was a massive enterprise, but COP26 is a kind of way off the scale in terms of that. So we're quite excited about how we can present the curriculum and the staff and their expertise for a global green recovery, and indeed how we can play our part with green skills. I mentioned, for example, how the world's shipping industry will descend from all parts to the City of Glasgow College, to our international maritime hub. And for 2 weeks, we'll be debating and discussing how we transition to carbon neutrality, how we look at the different energy sources, hydrogen and ammonia, how we look at, for example, carbon capture, how we look at waste reduction, how we try and apply the United Nations sustainable goals. I think that just transition is going to be kind of taking a lifespan certainly over that next decade, and we've got a very important role to play in that, given our technological world-class reputation. But in addition to that, we're very much interested in the individual learner. So we're pioneering a new set of micro-credential qualifications that will help students who study online, or help students who have to engage in bite-sized forms of learning to get their learning internationally recognized, so they can actually stack that learning up and get an even more advanced qualification. Personalized learning is very important these days, and I think the digital pivot has allowed us to engage in that. But a couple of years ago, I wrote a report, co-authored a report, Comfort Little report, that kind of actually, before the pandemic, was a blueprint of a new age that was going to be disrupted by artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality. And part of that was to signal the growing importance of lifetime learning. So you don't just stop learning when you leave college or leave university. Like that older learner at 81 years of age, and that's actually been quite a young learner. They've gone into their kind of 90s in this college. We want to provide relevant skills, leisure skills, but also kind of community skills for those individuals and those graduates who, as they go to that next chapter in their life, can remain in contact with their alma mater and actually have a lifetime of learning. I think in addition to that, the whole world of innovation is going to be very important to us, and how work is changing, how the need for good work is going to be quite important. We study that in this college. We also study maritime innovation. The research project of the year, for example, was about oxygen depletion in enclosed spaces and how we can stop 300 deaths across the world among seafarers. But sometimes I use an expression with the staff that it's important that you lead from the future and not to the future. So as an institution, we are very much leading, if you like, from that 50, 30, 25-year time horizons, and preparing that pipeline of talent that's going to meet those volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous challenges, or as it's probably worked out, those turbulent challenges, and not just meet them, but to thrive in that sort of environment. And another phrase I use is that the future's already here. It's not evenly divided. So the future is here. It's been here with the City of Glasgow College for at least a decade. For example, the campus that you've seen on that video was shortlisted twice for UK Building of the Year. Now, universities and colleges don't get shortlisted for UK Building of the Year, and we've been shortlisted twice for that. The Guardian newspaper referred to the college as a temple of vocational education. Vocational education doesn't usually get that level of recognition. So we're trying to redefine and reevaluate the skills agenda, and that's going to be very important post-Brexit. That's going to be very important in a digital era. There's going to be skill shortages. There's going to be a need to upskill and reskill. And that's going to have to happen in an agile way, in a partnership way, and in a collaborative way. And I think we've been trialing that for 11 years. So there's a lot of learning we can apply to other institutions, other partners, other governments.
Well, that's fascinating. And we say, don't we, when we're at sea, you don't sail from Glasgow to New York. You sail from Glasgow towards New York, because you never know where you'll be blown. I'd like to ask you a question about what's going on in Hong Kong, not a political question, but what we should be doing and what you could be doing to reach out to those people in Hong Kong who are going to leave, taking advantage of these special passports, and whether amongst them there would be faculty and, of course, students who you could make welcome and who would be accretive to the team that you have at the City of Glasgow College.
Well, it's good that you say that, because actually we signed 55 new agreements in the last year alone, and one of those with Hong Kong, and we already had an agreement with the University of Hong Kong, their vocational institute. So of course, at one level, we will welcome those passport holders that want to study in the United Kingdom and study particularly in Glasgow. Glasgow has got a world reputation as a gateway city in the United Kingdom, extremely cosmopolitan, extremely welcoming, and obviously here we are at the very heart of that, here to welcome you. You know, we work very closely with our colleagues in Hong Kong. We had some colleagues who left us over that 10-year period and took up residence in Hong Kong. They were originally from Hong Kong. So we have very strong links with Hong Kong, which we are presently using to support students to come to study with us. So I guess, Roddy, like all of Asia, be it Singapore, Philippines, China, elsewhere, you know, we're very open to support those that wish to have a UK and a world-class education here in Scotland. Scotland is very much the country of enlightenment, very much the, if you like, the country that was the heart of the Industrial Revolution. Glasgow was at one stage second city of the empire, building all the ships and all the heavy industry. And all of that knowledge is kind of in our DNA. So we know that we're a very popular destination for those individuals that want that pedigree from us.
Very, very exciting. Thanks, Paul. Sorry, Rick, back to you.
No, absolutely. I think you highlighted it a little bit in your response to Roddy, but I'd be keen to understand how these strategic initiatives you describe play into your international student outreach, and particularly with your Asian partnerships. How do you go about discussing these initiatives with them?
Well, we don't just do so from Glasgow. So we actually will visit, and hopefully we're looking forward to visit our Asian partners. And we have staff who are on the ground, so 25 staff, excuse me, who work with individual institutes in a variety of areas, from caring to engineering to maritime to supply chain to creative industries. Really what we try to do is to try and meet a need. So 25 years ago, for example, the City of Glasgow College helped design and found the first ever maritime college in India. And we've kept a relationship with that. But we've updated that with working with new partners, for example, in Indonesia. And we're working with them, for example, in helping them upskill and reskill in a variety of economic sectors. I guess, Rick, it just depends on where the need is. And because we've got that faculty who will be visiting the institutes, we can do so digitally. So we ran, for example, for a number of years, a college in Angola, which was probably 6 hours away from their capital, Luanda. So we designed that with partners from the Angolan government and Stena Shipping. And it was a $100 million campus. That provided a lifeline to the community in that part of West Africa. But the IT and the faculty was supported by City of Glasgow College. So all the IT was supported from here in Glasgow, but the senior faculty of that campus was recruited and trained and supported from Glasgow. So it just really depends on where the need is. We would try and target our expertise so that increasingly countries want local support for local initiatives, be that supporting either industry sectors that are emerging post their own different economic challenges, or if it's helping in social development. We have a lot of expertise in helping the disadvantaged communities. And doing so not just in direct education, but doing so using digital. We designed an app that you can buy on the App Store from Apple or Google. And that actual app allows individuals to use AI to learn new languages and to be able to speak new languages. Now that app was designed at the City of Glasgow College. So it's a range of interventions from, if you like, the traditional professional practical teaching right through to 21st century technological solutions, depending on what the particular international partner needs.
I mean, some really amazing projects and initiatives that you're working on. I think what would be interesting to our audience today is what kind of profile or qualities do you look for in an international partner?
Again, a great question. Well, first of all, we want them to be open and honest and collaborative with us. So we're in this for the long term. So we want international partners that actually understand our unique blue ocean vision, who by their instinct are themselves good partners. For example, I mentioned about winning research project of the year, but at the same higher education award ceremony in Scotland, we won partnership of the year or partner of the year. Roddy will understand from both his financial services background, but also being based in Edinburgh, that was working with a partner in Edinburgh. And you know, between Glasgow and Edinburgh, the kind of challenges that could be there, Roddy. So we overcome those challenges and we actually produced a fascinating fast-track financial services partnership program. So I guess we're looking for partners that are collaborative, that are agile, that are inclusive, that share our values of equality and diversity, that partners that actually aspire to excellence. We're not interested in good or very good. We're only interested in excellence or beyond excellence, that ability to flourish. We want partners that will grow with us for the long term. You know, we want partners that actually can help us grow as an institution. And for example, that may be exchange of staff or students, but it also may be partners that have got, you know, international business companies associated with them that you might find in Scotland or the UK, you know, that we could provide links for those companies to grow. So in a sense, we're looking for partners who, you know, can challenge themselves, that they too want to transform, to challenge themselves, that they too want to be innovative disruptors, that they too don't want to simply be pigeonholed as to, we know what kind of institution, because even from our establishment, you know, we can date back nearly 2 centuries, and all our legacy institutions from the industrial era, you know, right through to the kind of white heat technology of the early 60s, all of those legacy institutions were pioneering institutions. So if you're a partner that is interested in pioneering, interested in innovation, interested in excellence, interested in being inspirational, then you'll be a good fit for the City of Glasgow College.
Well, it makes a lot of sense that you've chosen to base yourself in China, in Hangzhou in that case, one of the more innovative places in the world at the moment, I think. Perhaps you could go into a little more detail about how that relationship is set up, and if there are any other partnerships of a similar nature, and if you have anything else in the pipeline of that kind.
Okay, so another great question. I mean, I think in essence, as you know, and our Asian partners know, it's important that you show face. So we actually will visit. I personally will visit China, and we will negotiate with the Chinese partner, if you like, initial kind of 3 to 5 year project. And in addition to that, I or one of my senior staff will visit maybe twice a year, usually either starting a cohort of new students. We're there to help support and launch that, or indeed I attend the graduations and help the students graduate in China from their various courses. And I think, you know, I've indicated to you that, you know, 170 of those would be graduating in recent times. I think very often those partnerships will then blossom because the trust will grow, the two institutions or the business partner or the community partner will understand that they may have approached the college for a certain economic sector, but because they will also have come to Scotland and visited the City of Glasgow College and have been inspired by not just our architecture, but by the faculty they meet, they will then say, well, I didn't know that you offered this. So for example, we had a very unique, just take the China example, we had a very unique where we engaged in Hangzhou to provide courses in supply chain management. And actually that was extended into culinary. So I found myself in a meeting with my opposite number in Hangzhou, and he wanted me to set up an international barista competition for coffee. And I'm thinking, you know, you've got the best tea in the world and you're interested in actually being a barista and interested in how you could be the best in coffee as well, and how you can engage in culinary. So we enabled that, and we actually got some Singapore partners, some Chinese partners, some the rest of Europe and UK partners, and we set up a competition here in China where we got the #1 taste expert from Costa Coffee, who was actually a Colombian, who came and was the judge for that particular competition. And I think the most important thing was the Chinese partners won. And I'm quite surprised at that, because given our reputation in culinary arts, it just shows you that you can always learn from others across the world. That was quite a revelation to me. So that kind of shows you that the trajectory of a partnership can start small, like a small acorn, and grow into a huge oak tree. And that oak tree is a large lifetime oak tree. And I think that partnership with Hangzhou, which we're very proud of, and I regularly have digital calls with my opposite numbers, as well as, hopefully post-pandemic we'll be able to go and visit them again. That partnership is a partnership of equals. That's a partnership where, as I said, we're learning as much as they're learning from us.
Paul, can I just interject something? I'm reflecting on your comments, and of course, Scotland, interestingly, has a population the same size as Singapore. After that, a number of things, of course, are different. The energetic growth of the Singaporean economy. To what extent is your thinking, which I believe is inspirational, something that the Scottish government listens to? Because if they could drink some of the City of Glasgow College Kool-Aid, it might be that we would be a great deal more effective in the way in which we engage with the international markets. I know that many of the SMEs in Scotland feel that perhaps the lines of communication and the opportunities being made available to them are not as great as they should be. And I'm not looking to you necessarily to criticize the government, but I am wondering whether you feel you've got a lot of kindred spirits in Scotland who are all straining to achieve good outcomes for Scotland itself in the international markets.
Well, Roddy, in fairness, the Scottish Government have been good bedfellows to us. They've been, fellow travellers in that sense. They actually helped support the investment of the £228 million super college. So it's in their interest to actually show that off to the world. And we work, with a number of ministers, for example, Ivan McKee in international trade and export, to really showcase both companies around the world. I mean, I was on a number of trade missions with Scottish ministers in America, in Asia, to try and alongside our world-class universities, we've got a world-class college, to show that actually, Scotland is a great place to do business with. And, we support initiatives for inward investment. I think you'll see a lot of that with COP26. I think, Scotland's got a great reputation for social justice, got a great reputation, for its interest in green skills and indeed a just transition with a green recovery. I think with, Glasgow playing a major host in that. So, yes, Scotland's important, but let's be honest, Glasgow has also got a world-class brand as a city, and working with the Glasgow government, and the Glasgow Chamber of Commerce, we work quite extensively with networks. I'm president of Glasgow Chamber of Commerce, and in the last year alone, I've led 6 virtual delegations from countries as far afield as Germany to Italy to Asia, countries in Asia, and you mentioned Singapore. One of those was Singapore. So we understand the importance of playing a fellow traveler role or playing an expert role in that sense. But I guess, maybe we should make more of that, because, that is part of our DNA, where we've, the report I mentioned, Cumber, for a little, where we talked about, there's a whole chapter about how you could export the Scottishness, not the UKness. That everybody kind of gets the UK brand, but there's a Scottish brand, about the, the need for equality and justice, but also that need for enlightenment, that fine appreciation of practical education, that fine appreciation of, for example, world skills. So, I mentioned about our students competing in skills competitions, both in the UK, where we've been kind of like #1 for the last 5 years alone, but also to do that in countries, Middle East, Abu Dhabi, or do that in Sao Paulo, or hopefully next year we'll be competing in Beijing. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some Scottish ministers as part of that kind of delegation.
Very interesting. We actually have a question from the audience. I'll put in there before we start to wrap up. I know time is starting to come to the end. So Martin Allen, one of our regular attendees, says congratulations, Paul. I believe goods and resources being transported by 80% of goods and resources are transported by maritime transport. What risks and opportunity do you see in shipping design and shipbuilding in Scotland?
Goodness, well, we're probably amongst the top 5 maritime colleges in the world. I actually think we're #1, but there are great other maritime colleges out there as well, and that's not our only area. That as I said, we've got 1,200 courses, but maritime is right amongst them. And we train ship's captains, chief engineers. It's kind of 10-year apprenticeship to that level, so we understand global trade. Rolly and I were having a conversation about the Ever Given, the ship that was stuck in the Suez Canal. And I think, that just is a good reminder. That was actually only 4 months ago. That was a good reminder of global trade. About 12% of the world's trade passes through that canal, but it was never designed for ships of that size. 18,000 containers going through a very narrow space. So, training navigators, training engineers, training the electrical staff, the digital staff that are now required from some of our ships. Our ships nowadays are actually kind of very complicated on the bridges. If you went into the bridge of a large cruise ship or a large tanker, you would be quite surprised. It probably resembles in larger format, the cockpit of an aircraft. So we would have to train our navigators and our engineers in all aspects of that. And that's why we've got bridge simulators and, simulators that can, prepare you for maybe 120 different ports that you could sail into without leaving Glasgow, in a sense. And you may be in there for 4 to 6 hours. And after 4 to 6 hours, you actually believe you're on that bridge of that ship, actually in navigating that waterway, be it Hong Kong or Istanbul or whatever it is. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, 95% of all the goods coming to the United Kingdom, and probably most countries, actually come by sea. And we work with a range of top 10 shipping companies, but also a range of maritime institutes around the world to make sure that the graduates that leave us to do so safely, but leave us, they can go anywhere in the world and they leave us become a 3rd officer in a ship. And that's quite an important role, because quite honestly, if you consider at night time, it's usually the 3rd officer is standing watch on that ship. And that ship is probably a £1 billion asset. And the person that's steering that ship, or in the engine room of that ship, the chief engineer or the 3rd and 4th engineer of that ship, there's a 1 in 3 chance that engineer or that captain will have been trained at the City of Glasgow College. So we've got a huge reputation. The crew of the Ever Given was Indian. And one of the things I checked was, did we train any of those crew? Now, it turns out that we didn't, although we train a lot of Indian crew and Pakistani crew and indeed international crew. The Ever Given was just an example of, the challenge that you have in the supersized ships that we have in the world in narrow passageways. But, life at sea is always a surprise, and you have to be what I would remember as semper paratus. You've got to be prepared for anything. And I like to think the City of Glasgow prepares all our graduates, maritime or non-maritime, for anything that they're about to face in the world of work.
It's wonderful to hear Glasgow still has such an important role in global trade, and that you're at the forefront of that. I think hopefully, if it's okay, there's time for just one more question before I pass over to Roddy. So I read a little bit into the Cumberford Little report that you co-authored. You conclude that colleges thrive in a system rather than a hierarchy, and recommend that Scotland needs one tertiary system that's agile, collaborative, and inclusive. So how would you explain the difference between the current setup and what you're suggesting, and what needs to change in order to achieve this?
So I've strategically placed the Cumberford Little report behind me.
Oh yes, great.
So that's a 100-page report that I co-authored with the principal of Edinburgh College, and between us we have over 50 years experience in higher technical and professional education. And I think what we were trying to demonstrate there is that if those, take Scotland for example, of the 45 higher education institutes in Scotland, it isn't about where you're at in that pecking order, it's about how important all 45 are through the diversity that they all can bring. So we tend to over-celebrate our universities, and we tend to under-celebrate our specialist institutions, or we tend to under-celebrate practical skills or technological skills, or indeed professional education. What I'm really saying in that report is that if that's part of one system where everyone can contribute as peers and as equals, where everyone has a fair share of the funding, where everyone understands that in the new world that we're all facing, your solutions have to be agile, that you need to work together in a collaborative way, that it's about a system, and that even the skills for principal leaders like myself have to be more about system leadership, to work across silos, to learn how to negotiate on the margins, to value transition periods. That period is the period that we're finding ourselves fast forward into because of the pandemic. But the Cumberford Little report is very much a blueprint of how a tertiary institution can thrive in a volatile, an uncertain, a complex, and an ambiguous future. And we try to set that out based on after a year in consulting very, very widely across Scotland, across the United Kingdom, across our international partnerships. Edinburgh College exports to the world, City of Glasgow College exports to the world. So we pulled all of that collective wisdom, what they call crystallized intelligence. We pulled that into a 100-page report that actually was commissioned by Scottish ministers. So I guess, Roddy, that shows the vision of Scottish ministers, that they wanted that so that colleges could actually play a particular role in that ecosystem to, if you like, be symbiotic partners with businesses and to ensure that we get lifetime learning. And I think that's really crystallized the key parts of the Cumberford Little report.
It's been really wonderful hearing your perspectives, Paul. It's fascinating to hear how successful the college is, and obviously hope for great success in the future. I'll pass now over to Roddy to wrap things up.
Thank you.
Many thanks.
Thanks, Rick, for that. And Paul, I can't thank you enough for your discussion with us today. I think the City of Glasgow College is a shining light, a beacon on a hill. It's setting an example for the rest, really, of the Scottish economy as to how to work together, how to envisage something that is powerful, and then take a plan forward. And I know that you're going to be very involved with the COP26 discussions. They are of critical importance. I thank myself today that I'm not living in Seattle or certain parts of California where the temperatures are appalling, and in Canada, and that's an early indicator of what's going on with our climate. But we have all benefited from our conversation with you today. Those who watch this when it's put up on YouTube in the coming days will similarly be inspired by what you have said. And I can't thank you enough. I know that Sir Christopher Wren said, when asked if there was a memorial anywhere for him, standing in St. Paul's, he said, "Si monumentum requiris circumspice." If you need a monument, take a look around. And I think they will say that rightly of you too. So Paul, bless you, and thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Roddy. Thank you, Aegis Scotland. Thank you.
Thank you.